Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes have been distributed, so unless there are some changes in the minutes, may I have a motion to accept the minutes as distributed?
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to have some citizen question and answers regarding the new marijuana legislation. We'll try and answer as many questions as we can for you. I don't know where's Dina? Okay,
Just making more copies. Right?
Oh, is she? Okay, there should have been a packet in the back regarding the legislation, but what we're going to do is we're going to waive the 5-minute time limit on this for the discussion for the marijuana legislation alone. Once we get to the citizens' comments, we'll go back to the normal protocol for citizens' comments. So, do we have anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against the adoption of the town moving to, there are two issues. We can accept, we can have a dispensary in the town, and we can also have establishments where you'll be able to consume marijuana. And both of those are two separate issues. So is there anybody that wants to speak for or against, or give us your opinions on which direction the board should go with that?
Yeah, Well Stall, 61 Brown Street.
Could you come up to the microphone, sir? You don't have to put that on.
Okay, yeah, I don't have too much to say. I just hope that we're in favor of bringing this into our town. I think it's going to be a big boon for us as far as the dispensary. I think that the consummation of it at a place, I think that probably requires a little bit more technical thinking, but I'm in support of it, and I hope that you guys agree. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name's Steve Aiken, I live on Church Road. Personally, I'm in favor of dispensary, town of Lysander. And there's going to be so many state regulations, going to be controlled so tightly. I really don't foresee there being any kind of issues with that, just bringing in tax revenue. As far as other than why you can smoke in establishments, whatever, I guess I'm not for that. I don't even know what the appeal of something like that would be. I restate that personally I'm in favor of dispensaries in the town of Lysander. And I'd like to hear people if they have any opinions on what any drawbacks would be to that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Cindy Clark, 27 West Genesee Street. Like the other gentleman here, I'm in favor of it, probably because of the tax revenue. I understand there's a chance, if the opportunity is there, for a large influx of tax dollars to come into our community, and anything to help offset the citizens' tax bills is welcome as far as I'm concerned. I don't really see any negative because if now that it's legal, people are going to smoke it anyways. They're going to buy it somewhere anyways. So if there are tight controls, like the gentleman was saying, we probably thought there would be very strict state controls. I don't see any problems with it in keeping in line with those controls that, like I say, people are going to smoke it anyways. They're smoking it now, I'm sure. But why not, if we can keep it in here, and keep a better handle on it in our own community, I don't see where it's gonna be a problem. I don't see, quite frankly, I mean, I grew up in the heyday, and I never saw it that much as a gateway drug or anything like that. So if it's here, it's now, we have to deal with it. We might as well take advantage of it and reap the benefits that it potentially can bring into our community.
So you're talking about a dispensary, what about the consumption?
That I'm not crazy about. You know,
Okay.
that doesn't interest me, but as far as the dispensary, let's keep the money here in our community, because like I said, people are gonna smoke it, they're gonna buy it regardless. So we might as well make the money.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Gail Tosh, 8447 Emmerich Road. I'm in favor of a dispensary for the stated reasons before, because of the taxes that are going to come into the community. But I also just recently took a drive across country, and this is a hot topic in a lot of different places that I visited. And one of the things that was a problem was that when people did legally purchase their marijuana, there was no place for them to consume it. So what I'm thinking of is if there was a place to consume it, people would come. And what that would bring is more tourism to our town, which would bring more dollars to our restaurants, to our gas stations, and to other things like that. So above and beyond tax dollars, I'm looking at it as a draw, another draw to Ballinsville and Lysander. Thank you.
Good evening, Matthew Hunt, 8292 Oswego Road. I am for the adoption of both the dispensary and places to smoke and consume it. Tax revenue, obviously, like health benefits, tourism, and this will also go hand in hand with the MCBE world. I believe it'll follow a similar New York State tourism path to farm breweries and wineries, but craft product, unique niche product that people want to come here for, and it'll bring people from out of the area to visit our town, and they'll be able to experience other things for it. No negative drawbacks, lots of health benefits, and I think the town as a whole is completely missing the boat if they don't get on board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Kevin Road, 1405 Greymore Way. My question, I guess, is more about zoning. Would it be, like, are there any, I haven't read the law, so is it about, you know, what districts would it be considered business? Do we have those specifics yet from the state?
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, that with this, we can establish specific zones for a dispensary, and I'll just talk about a dispensary right now because that seems what people are in favor of the most. A dispensary, we can establish zones outside of the zoning we already have, correct?
Yeah.
So,
You could just amend your zoning law to allow dispensary in whatever zones you want to allow.
so, does that answer your question? I mean, so we can we're going to I mean, it has to meet certain criteria. It can't be near schools and things like that. Certainly, you wouldn't want it near parks and things like that, but we can establish some zones, and we haven't even gotten to that point yet because as a board, we wanted to hear what the community wanted to say.
I hadn't read the law, I didn't know if it said this would be considered general business or, you know, if it's left up to the towns or municipalities.
They kind of leave it up to they leave it up to individual towns to decide where that goes.
Now, I know we're one of the first people to have a Q&A like this. Has there been discussions with the village? Because to me, given what Lysander is, the commerce part, business part is more in the village. And if the village decides to opt out, that puts the town in a unique area of where would you put the zone? So
We haven't had any discussions with them because they're separate. I think that's going to be up to their board to decide what they can do because they can actually, villages can put it up for a referendum. Towns cannot. You know, the town law doesn't allow us to do that. There is an option for a permissive referendum with signatures and things from the community if they don't like our decision. But I don't know, there are some villages in the county I know are going to put it up for referendum to see what the community wants to do. but we haven't had any discussions with the village as far as what they are going to do.
Okay. And I know at the last work session, or maybe before that, you had talked about the town's part of the tax percentage. Were you able to find out any more if that's like a pooling and then the towns each get a part?
It is a pooling, and then how it works is the towns that opt in. So we'll say there's 4 towns that opt in and the rest of the towns don't. The only ones that will share in that revenue are the towns that opt in. And then it will be split up, and I'm not sure if it's done by population, if it's done by sales. I've heard it both ways, so I'm not sure about that. But they will be distributed. If there's only 4 towns that opt in, then those 4 towns will share in the tax revenues, and it's 3% of the sales that the towns would split.
Okay. I mean, I'm probably in favor of it. I see both dispensaries and consumption bars as possible tax revenue, but as Cindy pointed out, it's legal to smoke. This, us opting out of it doesn't prevent somebody from smoking it or consuming it. So we're past that point as a town. I think we should look at, let's try to have an area, as long as, who knows what's gonna happen. But we have the Baldwinsville Police Department in the village, we have the state troopers and the sheriff's department. I'm personally, I don't think it's gonna be crazy people walking, hallucinating down the street, hopefully. But I think it could be advantageous for the town of Lysander to move with the state, get some tax income, and possibly tourism too. That was something I didn't think of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
One quick thing, Tony, Rivers-Igno, to go back to Kevin's first question, you did answer the zoning question regarding the dispensary, and is it the same situation with smoking, with consumption? Do you know, as far as the town being able to zone locations where consumption could be?
I would think you could do both.
Okay.
We opt out of one.
I figured as much, but I thought,
Yeah.
since everybody's here, we should, okay.
You couldn't have a smoking establishment in a residential area, obviously.
Right.
But,
Right.
so you'd have the same flexibility zoning law-wise with either one.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this issue? Yep,
We open for questions yet?
sure. That's what,
Gene's
yeah, we'll bring it back up. Yeah, this is a question and answer. We want to be able to, we'll try and answer your questions as best as we can, but the law is a little convoluted, and there's been a lot of smart people, a lot smarter than me, looking at this, and there's still some questions that have to be answered, but we do have some information, and we'll answer your questions to the best of our knowledge anyway.
I'm Gene Densmore from 7493 Highland Drive, Baldwinsville. I personally am appalled that we're even at this point, but the governor and the legislature has put it into law, so we might as well not hide, hide our eyes from it and take advantage of whatever needs to be. Because if you don't, supposing we only have a dispensary and you have to go to Clay or Salina to partake of it, now you're causing our people to go out of town to enjoy this stuff. And I would just as soon accept it for what it is. The governor and the legislature did it to us. I will just take advantage of everything that it has brought, and the good and the bad, and let it go. There's nothing, I don't think that any one of you or any one of us are going to stop it ultimately, so we might as well accept it and try to make sure that the sheriffs and everybody have the tools to manage it. Okay?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Not to go out for
You can, if you feel more comfortable there.
Yeah, I watched the presentation, the video from the Van Buren meeting from last month. Didn't answer my question, but what I'm wondering is, I don't know how many dispensaries are going to be approved by the state. So let's say 4 towns opt in, Lysander's one of them. But nobody ever puts a dispensary in Lysander. Would Lysander then still be privy to part of that pool of money that's coming in taxes? Or would Lysander be shut out? Does anybody know that yet?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. If I can answer this, if we opted in, but we didn't have a dispensary in the town, and the village opted in and they did have a dispensary, we would get part of that revenue from the village. But I don't know if we don't have a dispensary in the town, if we would get some of the revenue. That's something we'll have to find out.
For people that would be opposed to a dispensary, in my mind, I think there's a good chance we'll never have one anyways. So just be opting out, would just be missing out on a shot to bring in free money essentially. But just something to keep in mind.
So, as Supervisor Wicks had mentioned, the law itself is quite lengthy, and so what we have printed out here tonight is basically your Cliff Note version, which is why it does get a little bit complicated and sometimes hard to answer. But there is a line, if you look at page 8, and they're talking about the revenue, tax revenue from this. It does say in the second bullet, on the top part there, it does say that if you go down there, basically the money will be in proportion to the sales made in such cities, towns, and villages. So if this were the only part of the law that I were looking at, and I just don't know, like I said, it's pretty lengthy, but if this were the only part of the law I was looking at, my assumption would be you would have to sell something within your town in order to receive some of that money. Except, of course, for the bottom part, as Supervisor Wicks also pointed out, the third bullet down does talk about the villages selling, and then even if the town doesn't, there would still be. So I see why it might have been hard for people to answer that question for you, but it does sound like you have to make sales.
As I say, the third bullet also says that if the dispensary is in the village and the town hasn't opted out, the revenues get split 50-50 between the village and the town.
Right.
So
if the dispensary is in the village, not outside the village, but in the town, there would still be some tax revenue. But again,
we
it's
would
right
have had
there.
to opt it in order to do that.
Right.
Even if we didn't have here, we couldn't opt out and they opt in, and then we get part of the revenue. We would have to opt in and they opt in, and then we'd get part of it.
But officially, right, the Lysander Town Board, they don't have to
Correct.
opt in.
Correct.
No.
The town could
Correct.
just do nothing at all
Correct.
and kind of be,
And it automatically goes
Yes.
into effect. We automatically opt in by not doing anything.
I'll ask a question. And so if we don't do anything and we automatically are opting in, do we still retain the right to decide where these things will be located?
Yes.
After the fact?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes?
I apologize, I can't recall the name of the study or statistics, but I work in insurance. I recently read, I do a lot of work in the hemp CBD world, and I'm familiar with the legal cannabis world. And studies actually show that in other states that have done legalized cannabis, that the areas they've put dispensaries and such in have actually improved quite a bit. So whatever concerns there are about the bad element of this, by legalizing it, you're essentially getting rid of the bad element. You're not bringing in, the guy in the street corner. You're gonna have doctors, lawyers, business professionals, business owners. This will improve the quality of wherever it's located. And that information's out there readily available.
That's for dispensaries though, right? Because just to, point this out, I know that when they initially, in Colorado, there was an issue when they put, I'm not sure if they had consumption establishments or dispensaries or both. In Colorado, there was an issue with the business district. It did have a detrimental effect on some of the businesses in those areas. Now, that was initially, you were probably going back 12 years, and that came through the chiefs of police when I was still a cop. I mean, we got that information. So that might have changed. So that's something we'd have to look at. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Wicks, my name is Mark Rubin. I live at 7851 Wood Drive here in Lysander. Good evening. And good evening to everybody else. I have a medical card. I used to be on a lot harder medication that the doctor had prescribed during the days of Purdue Pharmaceuticals. This has changed my life. Dispensary, recreational use, these are old terms, but what it is, it's adult use. It's not a toy. It's better than alcohol. It relieves stress, pain, anxiety, cancer problems. It's an amazing thing versus the chemicals. And I would abhor, I would beseech everybody here to consider the medical patient. And if we have to go to DeWitt, or we have to go into Liverpool, or we have to go the other places, Salina. And so it's important to people who are not here, people who can be here because of their pain, because they're hurt. And if we could collect revenue as a result, in helping our people, by helping our community, by helping our fellow citizens, I think that that's a step in the right direction, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, we start, anybody from the board want to make a comment regarding this?
I really appreciated folks coming out tonight because you just don't know what people are thinking, and it really would be nice if more people had come out, and maybe they will in the weeks to come, because it's just good to hear. It's good to hear different perspectives, so thank you.
I'm going to echo Bob Drossi's thoughts. I appreciate everyone coming out and sharing their opinions, and if you have any other thoughts or concerns, please feel free to email us. I look forward to reading them. So, thank you.
Yeah, I would like to echo a little bit of what Ms. Clark mentioned, and that is that it's here. It's here. And really, there's nobody in this room that is going to stop anything from, the law is already law, so really our decision is whether or not we allow dispensaries or, consumption outlets. I'm just glad that everybody came out to talk to us. There's going to be tax revenue benefits to this. There could very well be health benefits to this. And I'm glad to hear everybody's opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, like Liza, what he just said, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So might as well benefit from the tax revenues. We don't have a lot of industries here in Lysander with the exception of Budweiser. And a couple other things that may come here, but might as well, take advantage of the tax benefit to help out and offset, the residents. So,
obviously, that nobody here is going to stop anybody from smoking. In fact, it's against the law to do that. And part of the adult use cannabis, just so you know, people will be, once they establish the Office of Cannabis Management, and they regulate it, people will be able to grow plants in their own residence. So instead of having a tomato garden, you can have a cannabis garden now. And the law allows, which I'm sure people are going to have it, people 21 or over may possess up to 5 pounds of cannabis on the grounds of their private residence. So that's a lot of weed. I don't care how I saw 5 pounds of weed. I years ago, and again, when I was a cop, and that's a lot of weed. But I do agree with the gentleman over there. There's a lot of medical benefits to it. Glaucoma, epilepsy, anxiety, cancer patients use it, so there are some medical benefits to it. The dispensary, just so people know, I happened to get a call a couple of weeks ago from an individual that has a dispensary in Worcester, Massachusetts. Worcester, Massachusetts is a community of about 50,000. That community was taking, I said, well, tell me about your establishment. And he said, well, it's kind of like an Apple store. And he sent me the pictures, and it is. It's pretty much like an Apple store, the white and very clean and, a professional business. And I asked him, well, what type of revenues are you taking in? He said, monthly? I said, sure. $1 million. They were taking in $1 million a month. That would equate to $30,000 for the community per month. That's quite a bit of money to take in to opt out of. The dispensary, certainly I'm going to, whatever the sentiment is from the community, I'm going to go along with that. It seems like tonight at least, people are in favor of dispensaries for the most part, not necessarily for the consumption establishments. And I would, in order to make any type of decision on that, I would like to know more information on how they operate, how it's going to work like a bar where you're going to sell whatever over the bars, and you're going to consume it there. Do you have to go to a dispensary and bring it into the place and consume it? Is alcohol going to be consumed there? And the difference between a bar and a cannabis consumption establishment. If you go into a bar, you can go in and have a beer. Most people, if I have two, I'm one of those people that if I drink two, I probably shouldn't be behind the wheel, and I don't. But most people can drink a beer, have a sandwich, and walk out the door, and you're not going to have a problem with them driving. I don't know if that's, in fact, I'm pretty sure that's not the case with if you go in and do a couple of gummies or you go in and smoke a joint, you're probably not going to be able to drive a car. So for that reason, I'm kind of leaning away from a consumption establishment because people can smoke it. Anywhere that smoking is legal, you can smoke it. So we're going to see people walking up and down the street anyway, so is it better to have them, people in a location where they're smoking it or smoking on the street? I don't know. That's why we wanted to take the time to ask the community what they thought about it, and we have some time to make these decisions, but hopefully over the next couple of months we can get some more input on this. Yes, sir.
So you bring up a good point. So what is the board's plan, or do you have a rough timeline on when you want to make decisions on this moving forward? Or, I know you've got some.
Well, we have 7 more months if we want to opt out. If we are leaning towards opting in, or we don't have to do anything. If we want to opt out on one or both, then we have to do it before the end of the year. So that's really our timeline. But there's no big hurry. They haven't even established everything here. And like I said, I would like to see what the criteria is for the dispensary is pretty easy. You go in, you purchase your items, and you leave. I would like to see what plan they have or how the consumption establishments are going to operate before I make a decision on that. And as far as I know, there is no information about that out there yet.
So right now it's more just collecting information, input.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just to add,
sure.
I would be against consumption bars. I've been to San Francisco on business trips. I've seen them. We should not have those in our community.
Can you buy it there?
In my estimation.
Can you buy it in San Francisco and consume it there?
You buy it in the premise, and you have to consume it in the premise, and it's the wrong clientele for our community.
So it's kind of like a bar, only you're purchasing cannabis.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, that's good input.
Yeah, it's available out there, and
yeah.
it's not, it's just, for me, a medical person, it's just not the right field.
Yeah.
Try it.
that's good input, because I didn't know anybody that's ever been to one of those, so I appreciate your comments.
I'll give you a link.
Okay,
Privately.
all right. Oh, privately, well, all right. So I'll know where to go. All right. Any other comments or questions? And the more information we get, we're going to share it with you. But this was good input tonight. I appreciate all your comments. So now we're going to close that, and we'll move on to the regular agenda items. Pardon me?
I don't know if we're going to do citizen comments.
Yeah. We'll start with citizens' comments. If you have comments regarding town business. Anyone have any other comments to make regarding town business? No? Okay. We'll go with supervisors' comments. We have a gentleman here tonight. He's the district representative, Mr. Derek Card, and he's representing Senator John Mannion's office.
Good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing?
Good.
This is my first town board meeting. I've now been with the senator for 2 months, and I'm quite elated to see this type of discussion take place.
You can turn around. You don't have to address us. You can, yeah, sure. Address your constituents.
Thank you. So as I was saying, my name is Derek Carr, and I had the unique opportunity to join the senator's staff about 2 months ago. And in doing so, it was so enlightening because just a simple thing of seeing the democracy take place in a discussion like this is just so beautiful. I said all that to say that the senator wants to make sure that if you have any concerns or issues, that I'll be there to the end, and I'll have a card with my cell number, my email, and my office number. And you feel free to ask a question. And our job is to help find the answer, or get you a solution. Or if there may be a legislative solution, we want to make sure we take that to all meet the powers that be and fight for that legislation. So I just want to be frank and upfront with everybody on that. That's the senator's intention. The other piece in regards to this discussion, like the supervisor was saying, it is a lot of moving parts to this bill. The commissions to be set up to help govern and oversight this particular bill. It's a lot of moving parts. What may happen today and the commissions come together, there may be some changes. So we do want to make sure that everybody stays apprised of those changes or additions, amendments, whatever. So we want to make sure. And, well, our website will be up, and a lot of information will be up there as things change. So I want to make sure everybody is aware of that. Also, I want to just get a feel. So, like I said, this was my first one, but it won't be my last. And I don't want to take up too much more time this evening. I appreciate the graciousness and the hospitality of this getting the chance to talk to the few folks I did this evening. I look forward to working with all of you gentlemen. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the esteemed attorney who was a former, I was a property manager in another life at one of the premier real estate buildings downtown, Lowe's Landmark building. And this gentleman had an office space there, so it's so good to see you, I must say. He was one of the most esteemed, distinguished lawyers in town. So I wanted to thank everyone again, and I will be back, and we look forward to working together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I spoke with Mr. Carr about some grants that we have in the wings, so it was great that he came and took the opportunity to speak to him about that. So, I have spoken with the senator's office before, and that was just when he became elected, so they had a lot of things going on, and the grants do take some time, but it's nice having Mr. Carr here tonight where we can speak to him face to face, and so I have a face when I call, and he knows who's calling, so that always helps. Thanks again.
So good, thank you.
That's all I have. Start with Mr. Kudaraskis tonight.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, expressing your opinion on the medical marijuana, or not medical marijuana, on the marijuana. You know, now that it's legal here in New York, you can throw your card away. You don't need it anymore, so. No, it's nice to get everyone's view on it, so it'll help me make my decision, so thank you.
I too would like to thank everyone for coming out and sharing their opinion. At our last meeting, we asked people to come out, and I'm glad that people heard that and came out, because we are representatives, and so we want to make decisions based on the opinions of the people that we serve. So thank you very much. I also want to thank our Parks Department for getting this splash pad up and running. I've received a lot of correspondence from people saying thank you very much for having that going, and by next week, when it's in the 90s throughout the week, I think you're going to see traffic going through there a little bit. Yeah, so thank you very much, and I hope everybody enjoys it. Other than that, I'll stick to the rest of the agenda.
Well, I already thanked everybody for coming, so I've already made that comment. I do appreciate the dialogue and the thoughts that some of the residents had regarding the marijuana legislation. I'm looking at it from a different perspective, but I want to try and keep an open mind. So again, I appreciate people that are reaching out, that are sending emails, hearing everyone tonight. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. So.
Yeah, it's a privilege to be up here on this town board, because all we are hopefully doing what's right for the community, thinking as we have to think in terms of how our neighbors and are thinking, and sometimes that's not very easy. So appreciate the input, really do.
Okay. Start with department head reports. Ms. Falcone, start with you tonight.
Just happy to be here, and I'd like to stick to the agenda, please.
Okay. Mr. Yeager? Nothing? Mr. Merrill?
Well, the park has opened successfully. A few bugs still to work out. I would like to thank our engineer, Al Yeager, for all of his help in figuring out some of those bugs prior to opening. We still have a few that we're working on here today, but without his help, I was learning on the fly. So we are ready to go with our tennis court conversion to pickleball courts and resurfacing of the tennis courts that will remain.
Why don't, we have that on the agenda tonight. Why don't we talk about that, what you're going to do right now?
So, the current budget had for not a complete conversion of the remaining of the one tennis court into two pickleball courts, which what that meant was it was only going to put the posts in and the nets up for pickleball. It wasn't going to completely do away with it as a tennis court. So what it wouldn't do is mimic the adjacent pickleball courts. We have the money through other cost savings, money that was approved for a shed, which I didn't need for, money for removal of trees, which have already been done, and didn't cost the money that was set aside. So with those savings and the, if you want to call it savings from the partial conversion and rolling that into, with the total money that's in the account, we can do a complete conversion of the tennis court into two pickleball courts and still do a complete resurfacing of the lower tennis courts.
And it'll be all brand new up there. So we will have whole new surface, whole new additional pickleball courts, which are used heavily every day. And tennis courts will be all new.
Correct.
Okay.
Kevin, the only thing, we talked a little bit before the board meeting started. Are you going to put signs up like now, letting, you have such a popular facility, so for a couple of 3 weeks when they're going to be out of commission, you should let people, go
I
ahead.
talk on a regular basis with a liaison for the pickleball community in Lysander, and she communicates through all of them. And I'm over there on a daily basis, and I will speak to them if they don't come up to me.
Right, but I still think you should put a sign up that, just, the good news is we're going to have, the bad news is we're going to be shut down for a couple of 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely. Once we have some hard dates from the vendor, absolutely, we can put those notifications out.
Anything else? Okay, Mr. Rivazzigo? We'll move on to the regular agenda items. May I have a motion to appoint Matthew M. Hunt to the Zoning Board of Appeals with a term to expire June 2025, filling vacancy from 12/2020.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I was just going to ask, does anybody know him? I mean, I don't,
It's right there.
great.
He's the man.
He's on our club committee.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, you're on the club committee, great.
I jumped the gun a little bit.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion to authorize the town clerk to attend the New York State Association of Local Government Records Officers Conference from June 6th through the 9th in Geneva, New York. Hotel is $150, membership and conference fees are $80, total $530. This is in the town clerk's training budget.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. There's a little addition to this motion, so it'll be a little different than what you have in your packets. So may I have a motion to authorize payment of 40 hours of comp time in the amount of $1,509.14 to David Rowley. This resolution will not be precedent-setting for any future request.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay, what this is, Mr. Rowley, as most of you know, he was our previous comptroller. He's now the bookkeeper to the supervisor. He worked all last year when almost all the other employees were off. He was in the office every day along when I was here. He would be in here on his regular scheduled days. So we ended up with additional comp time that we allowed employees to carry over into this year because most employees weren't able to use it. There was no place to go. So he carried that 40 hours over. Well, for him, he just retired. So in the early part of the year, he was assisting me in getting prepared for somebody new coming in as the comptroller. He also, he and I did the interviews of all the people, which took up some time. Once we hired somebody, he is now training our new comptroller, and he really didn't have time he wasn't able to take the time off. So he actually did the town a favor when he didn't take the time off, because there are a lot of moving parts with that position, especially with Mr. Rowley being here 31 years, and now we have a new comptroller. And even though I think she's going to do a great job once she's settled into it, there are a lot of moving parts with that position, and I think it's an appropriate amount to do at this time. So. Any further discussion on that?
Mr. Supervisor, I just have a question.
Yeah.
I think we could just change the wording a little bit to maybe say this will not set the precedent instead of precedent setting. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think the wording makes any difference.
That just sounds better.
Well, I got that from our attorney, so.
Oh, okay. Say no?
Okay. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. May I have a motion to accept a quote from Oki Court Systems totaling $27,080 and use the total funds in account A7110-401 for the complete conversion, resurfacing, and lining of the remaining tennis court within the upper level into 2 pickleball courts, and the complete resurfacing and lining of the tennis courts on the lower level.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, in this account, this is $27,080. We have $28,200, so there's still going to be $1,100 in this account. And like Mr. Merrill said, some of this money was assigned to taking down trees, and this was put into the budget prior to us taking the trees down. After we got moving on the trees, we were able to take down double the amount of trees for almost nothing. So we took them down last year, and that's where the cost saving came with this. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any new business from the board members? Okay. I don't see any need for any executive session tonight, so may I have a motion to adjourn at 8:53? Or, I'm sorry, 7:43.
I'll move it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who seconded? Aye.
Oh,
I'll second
he
it.
did.
Okay.
Oh,
Jeff?
No, there wasn't a second? He's over there
It is
mumbling.
a second
All
now.
right, don't be mumbling down there. All right, so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting
So,
adjourned.
Jeff.
Thank you.